Today we are painting Constantin Valdor. This is another commissioned painting work, thus we are painting this mini as efficiently as we can at a fairly good quality. Like I always say, commissioned painting is finding the balance between efficiency and quality painting. We are painting the display base, the head, the red cape, and the gold armor. The painting of the display base was the easiest as it is mostly gray. The face is always fun to paint except for the eyes. The painting of the red cape and the gold armor are the main features of this Forged World resin mini. We will also talk about color theory as I walk you through the painting, since the color scheme is kinda limiting. Join me as we paint this Warhammer mini with the Army Painter Paints, Foxbite Hobbies brushes and holder, and with my gallery Aventus airbrush. I'm Don, welcome to my channel. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. Also, special thanks to the Army Painter for making this video possible. Oh, by the way, don't forget my affiliate links and discount codes down below. They won't cost you extra, but you'll get some good discounts. Lastly, do check out spraygunner.com. They've got everything you need for painting from top-of-the-line airbrushes to high-quality paint brands. We start by priming all the pieces black. I then let the primer cure for at least a day before painting. The base was primed in sections. The shoulder pieces and the head were primed separately from the rest of the mini. Now we switch to using my Aventus airbrush by Gallery for the base colors. As much as I love brush painting, painting the base colors, or at the very least the initial underpainting, is faster and more efficient with an airbrush. If you don't have an airbrush, please watch my videos on your initial airbrush setup. I will put the link to those videos down below. After painting with Ironclad Gray, a dark bluish-gray color, we now paint with Night Sky. Night Sky is the darkest color from the desaturated blue-gray triad. Now, I wanted more colors before we do some dry brushing. Having nice saturated underpainting before dry brushing will add more interest and color depth to our painting. I painted some patches of Abyssal Blue from the deep blue-greens triad. The patches of this color were painted randomly all over the base. Then, I painted some patches with Boot Brown. Boot Brown is a nice, deep, orange-brown color that complements the bluish tones of our base so far. I painted Boot Brown on the soil-looking textures of the display base. After underpainting with an airbrush, we now do some dry brushing with gray paints to bring out some more textures. These gray colors are the actual base colors of this base. I started with deep gray for the initial gray color, then I dry brushed uniform gray, and then finished off with company gray. Notice how I switch to smaller brushes as the colors get brighter. The smaller brush helped me limit the area of the dry brushing. Once happy with the gray tones, I gave the base a quick mist coat of satin varnish. I used satin instead of matte varnish to help the wash recede better into the crevices and stain the raised details less. After letting the varnish partially cure overnight, we then proceed to apply various washes to add more depth to our painting. Warpaint's Fanatic washes are ink-based washes that are very similar to Citadel washes. They have good saturation but are a tad thick. You will want to dilute these washes with water. I dilute washes roughly around 3 parts wash to 1 part water. Now, we move on to painting the red cape. The red cape painting was very basic and I did not want to paint too much highlights to keep it deep red. I started with Blanched Berry. Blanched Berry is from the John Blanche paint set. I love this color. This color is a deep purple-red color and serves as both underpainting and shadow color of the succeeding reds later. Our next paint is Command Red. This is a revised Pure Red. This color has way more saturation in comparison to the original release of Pure Red. I airbrushed Command Red with the zenithal effect in mind. I tried my best not to have too much overspray on the other areas of the mini. A couple of thin coats with the airbrush gave me a very solid and saturated color. After airbrushing, I painted the same color on some edges and raised areas of the cape to add a bit of texture. To finish off the painting of the red cape, I used Blood Chalice. This is our highlight color already, since I want to make the cape look less shiny than the gold areas. Blood Chalice is the second brightest red from the Cool Reds triad.
If you're liking this video, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel.
Now we do a very quick painting of the head and the Space Marine helmet. The head and helmet painting were just basic layering. I started the painting of the Ultramarine helm with Ensign Blue. Ensign Blue is Imperial Navy from the Vivid Blues triad. This is the darkest color of the said triad. I then painted with Frost Veil. Frost Veil is a very saturated blue from the new John Blanche Masterclass paint set. This color almost feels like a fluorescent paint. You could make the layering simpler by limiting your painting to the Vivid Blues triad colors. But I love the paints from all the John Blanche Masterclass paint sets, so I tend to always incorporate them into my painting. Now, we go back to layering with colors from the Vivid Blues triad. I used Crystal Blue over the Frost Veil, and then painted pre-highlight colors with Arctic Gem. Arctic Gem is a very nice, bright pre-highlight color. To finish off the painting of this Ultramarine helm, I used Sky Shard. Sky Shard is a greenish-blue highlight color from the new John Blanche Masterclass paint set. The Sky Shard highlights help give a metal finish look to the Ultramarine helm. The painting of the head is also just basic layering. I started with the Topaz Skin from the Warm Reds triad. This is the perfect base color for most skin painting. Not too bright and has good coverage, and not too dark. I painted Topaz Skin in 2 thin coats. We followed the painting of Topaz Skin with Jasper Skin, a slightly brighter color from the same Warm Reds triad. The next 2 colors are from the historical sets, but you can simply use the brighter colors from the Warm Skin Tones triad. After painting the warm skin tones, I applied a quick coat of Warm Tones shade to soften my tonal transitions from the layering. The wash was thinned to around 3 parts wash and 1 part water. The wash also added a bit more contrast to our skin with very little effort. We finish off the skin painting with Leopard Stone Skin. This is the brightest color from the Warm Skin Tones triad. I must admit that this color registers with me as a cool skin tone. The bright pink finish seems cooler than warm. I like the cool profile of our skin tone. The cool skin should separate better from the very warm gold armor later. I started the painting of the gold armor by painting boot brown over the black primer. Metallic paints, in general, are more translucent than regular acrylics. Warpaint's Fanatic metallic paints have better coverage than most, but I still usually prefer a brown underpainting for my gold painting. We start the Gold True metallic painting with Emperor Gold. Emperor Gold is a dark and desaturated gold from the John Blanche Masterclass paint set. This gold paint is perfect as a dark base for any gold painting. I painted all the gold paint in 2 thin coats. The second coat was always painted in smaller areas than the first coat to create more volume. Once happy with the Emperor Gold painting, we paint our base color. I used Greedy Gold as the base color for the gold armor. Greedy Gold is very similar to Retributor armor in terms of coverage. Greedy Gold is more saturated and brighter though. This is the perfect base color for any gold armor painting. I highly recommend this gold paint. After a couple of thin coats of Greedy Gold, I applied a quick coat of Warm Tone shade all over the armor. I then let the wash dry before painting some highlights on the edges and highlight areas of the armor. I used bright gold for the highlights. Notice how I painted bright gold. I painted this color in a very scratchy manner. The added texture gives the illusion of transition and also gives the armor a subtle weathered look. I like the gold armor already. I was thinking of painting some very small highlights of mithril on the gold armor to add more contrast, but I eventually decided against it. I like the saturation of the armor already, and more highlights might desaturate the finish. I think the decision not to paint too much highlights on the red cape made the gold pop even more. The cool red of the cape also gave it a bit of separation from the very warm gold. Now, it's a matter of painting the neutral tones and the gray tones of the mini. I painted the tans, the horns, and the gray fur via basic layering and a few washes. The only notable part of the painting of the rest of the mini is making sure that the gray tones are bluer or cooler than usual. The cool grays give a nice separation against the very warm gold, creating more definition.
Now, before my final thoughts, a huge thanks to all my patrons at Patreon.
I must admit, I procrastinated in the painting of this commission mini. Constantin Valdor's color scheme is a bit limiting. It is mainly just gold and the red cape. The huge display base is also mostly gray. To create more interest and contrast in the painting, I had to be conscious of the textures, highlights, and the temperature of the colors that I was using. I had to flip-flop between warm and cool tones to add more interest to the painting. The cool skin, cool red cape, and cool grays pop more against the very warm gold armor. Even the dominantly gray display base was made to look more interesting with the play of warm and cool tones. You will also notice that I limited the highlighting of the red cape, the gray base, and even the skin. The highlights of the silver and gray parts are bright to complement the gold armor. This play of the intensity of the highlights gave more focus to the armor. The red cape also looks more like cloth, instead of the usual silky and bright finish. The textures in the painting also have subtle variations. The display base is a tad rougher than the rest of the mini. The cape and the gold armor have a subtle scratchy texture. The skin and silver areas are smoother than the rest of Constantin Valdor. As for the saturation of the colors, I kept the cape and the gold armor as saturated as I could. The saturation should make this mini pop even more on the gaming table or display cabinet. The grays and neutral tones are also more saturated than usual. The lesson in this Constantin Valdor painting video is simple. If you find the color scheme too limited to your liking, play with warm and cool tones, vary the texturing of the different elements of the mini, and vary the intensity of your highlights to create more definition, depth, and interest to your painting.
That's it, Pansit. I hope you like this video. Do comment, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Until next video, guys. Bye!